Today on The Necessary Entrepreneur, we welcome Phil Treadwell, founder and mindset coach at M1 Academy, as well as a national speaker and podcaster with nearly 20 years experience as a top producing mortgage professional. Phil collaborates with industry thought leaders and has built teams and markets nationwide. He's also been recently named one of the top 10 founders you should follow in 2024 by USA Today. He's also the host of the Mortgage Marketing Expert podcast, where he interviews mortgage and real estate industry elites as they share firsthand tips and advice on how to build a more productive and profitable business. You can find out more about him at philtreadwell.com. In this specific episode, Phil and I talk about refining yourself through failure, putting in the work to do a great job, getting your mind right, educating yourself, taking action, and to keep going. We also discuss the definition of a real friend, that willingness can't be taught, and providing value for people. And my favorite, that almost anyone can do almost anything. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like this and subscribe, share and comment below, and we'll continue bringing you insightful conversations with great people like Phil Treadwell.
The one question or the two questions I get asked every time I speak, especially if it's around content, social media, is question about personal versus professional profile. And the other question is, how often should I post? And my answer every time is more. More.
Why are they asking the question? And they might have been us. It might have been we at some point in the past. Why do humans continue to ask that question?
They ask the question because they want to know, when can it stop?
Never.
How much work do I have to do?
What do we have to do, you from a coaching perspective, me as a broker right now as a real estate company? Like, what do I need to do to have your brain just know the answer? Now, if you do it or not, that's a whole nother thing. I'm not talking about then the action to do it. To stop asking the effing question, to say, okay, I know. How many times do you need to hear it from how many people? How many books do you have to read? Every content coach out here now is saying the same shit. And this started a decade and a half or 2 decades ago with Gary Vee. You've been in his studio before. What has to happen for them to say, I accept it?
They've got to go do something. They've got to go do enough that they get results, right? I say 92% of people do not achieve the goals that they set for themselves in a given year. And the two main reasons, the first one's clarity. They don't know exactly what is they're shooting for, what they want. And the second reason is they just don't want it bad enough, right? So if someone is clear about what they want and actually wants that thing badly, and they're still not going and do the work, they don't actually have the belief that that's going to happen. Or they think they want it badly and they don't. We have shortcuts for everything. Like, just think in life. We didn't want to cook our food. We want to cook our food faster. We want more efficient ways. We want it healthier. Like, there's always a hack to make something faster, easier, better, whatever. This is the one thing there's no hack for.
But here's the thing. I don't fight the reality of that. Here's what I know when I hear this.
Agreed.
But here's, like, if I'm like, okay, I don't want to take time to find the great recipe, go to the store and get the products, cook it, and prepare. I don't want to put that time in. Okay. So then if I want to have a good quality meal, then I need to spend the money to go sit down in a fine dining restaurant. And the answer can't be, I don't have enough money. Nope. If I don't want to spend the time to have to get the ingredients and cook it myself, I need to make sure I make enough money,
right,
to then go out and go to the fine dining restaurant so it doesn't negatively impact my life. I don't have a problem with that scenario. People want to keep on interjecting or stopping that succinct, specific process.
Right. But again, continue with the metaphor. In work, in business building, okay, I don't want to go put in the hours. I don't want to make the phone calls. I don't want to do the social media posts. I want to do the videos. So like in a restaurant, I don't have to do any of those things. I can pay money and get the meal. I want to pay money and have this stuff done for me.
Okay, then pay the money.
Right. But even that, you still have to do the work. Okay, so the gym. Gym's the most fair place on planet Earth. Doesn't matter where you came from, how much money you have, what your past was, what your future, who you know, doesn't matter. You go into the gym, you put in the work, you get results. If you don't put in the work, you don't get results. And again, people say, oh, well, you can pay it. No, you can't. You tell me someone that actually goes and lifts and builds a six-pack is the same as some surgical implant? No, it's not the same fucking thing.
Is that why the diet pill, this new thing, is so popular? What is the new thing they're taking that was a diabetic medicine and now it's people are taking it to lose weight?
Right.
Is it because it's the easy shortcut to take a pill that gets you there that makes you not hungry?
I'm not saying you can't lose weight.
Yeah.
But again,
to build muscle, yeah.
If you go back and do the same thing you did before, you're going to get that same result.
Mm-hmm. Stop taking the pill, start eating the same way, eating the same shit, the same outcome's going to happen.
Which is why I don't like coaching programs that will say, because they come and say, how many times do I need to post? So you go to a coaching program that says, here's how many videos you need to do a week. Here's how many posts you need to do a day. Here's how many stories you need to do, all the stuff. The reason that shit doesn't work is because, number one, if the list of things that's on there, if they don't have buy-in in what it is, it's not going to be sustainable. And when they stop, they're going to get the results that they had beforehand. And it's not sustainable because those are things they may not actually want to do. There is a formula. There is a strategy where you get the results you want by doing things that you don't hate doing. But you still have to do hard things. If someone doesn't want to make phone calls, great. You got to send a bunch of text messages and DMs. Why don't I want to send text messages and DMs? Okay, well then what's your outbound lead generation? Oh, I'm going to send emails. Okay, you know how many fucking emails you're going to have to send to get the conversion that a phone call or text is going to?
How much time you're going to have to spend building the quality content that's going to get the person to open it. It's a process, right?
Right. Again, you don't have to do any one thing, but you have to do something.
Why is that message not resonating with a strong majority of people? Why?
I don't know. I think it doesn't resonate because it's not the answer they want.
Why are people looking for something they don't want?
Because that's what we're told. I think from the very beginning, you go back, we get super philosophical here. You go back to why formal education, like academia, education was created. It was created so that people could go to work. It was created to go work in factories. It wasn't created to build a business and entrepreneurship. It wasn't created to teach people about work ethic. It was teach them to be an employee and work for someone else. That's the fact of why formalized education was created, for people to go work in car factories or train yards or whatever the fuck else.
Do you think success is simple?
I think the concept is simple. It's just not easy.
Explain that, because I believe it is simple and also not easy.
Yeah. Explain it in terms of
just in general. It's like, hey, if I said, hey, is success simple? And you're like, yeah, for the most part, it's just not easy. Why is it simple?
Because it's a simple concept. When you truly understand how successful people became successful,
and it's out there in the world, right? The books have been written.
100%. There's no new information out there.
Yep. So when you understand how people have become successful,
it's typically a couple, 2 or 3 things. They get their mind right. They go do work. They take action, and they keep doing it and don't stop. Whenever it doesn't work, when they fail, when they lose, they figure out what didn't work, why it didn't work, and continue to work and try to make it better.
Do you think that someone was on the podcast the other day, and a guy, he's a CEO, has 60 or 70 employees, but of a pretty good brand here in Cincinnati. And we were talking about the attributes of employees and mindset. And I said, we're talking about people that do it right and, that have the right understanding and the right mindset. And he said, hey, man, it's either baked in or it's not. And I said, he's talking about the attributes. And I said, well, what happens if you come up on somebody and it's not baked in? He pretty much threw up his arms. And so today I found myself talking to a group of seniors at the old high school I went to. And what I wanted to do when I was going in this, like, what are those 17, 18, and 19-year-olds even going to want to hear from a 45-year-old guy? I don't want to talk just to talk. I'm taking my time. My hours are worth a lot of money now.
Yeah.
And I'm all about giving back. And there's something that is cool about going back to where you came from. And we were walking down the halls and reflecting. One of the people who invited me there actually went to school with her, and now she's in a position where she helps to become them, helps them become college and society and work ready. And I said, what's going to help them? Not only what they hear, what's going to help them? And I said, if I could have them understand my journey and my path, because what does everyone ask Phil and Mark all the time? I'm going somewhere with the story. They ask us like, well, how'd you do it? Well, what should I do? Well, what's the one piece of advice you'd give? It's all the same shit. And so what I told them today was, I said, something happened to me at 14 years old. Not like some big thing happening, but something happened in my brain. And I had this landscaping job at 14 years old. And I remember this. I remember I had our sales manager, when I told this story for the first time a couple months ago, I had him pull up the house after the sales meeting. And I said, dude, I'm going to show you the house. Pull up the house that I was actually working at, that story was from. And so I said, I was a landscaper, 14 in the summer. And the first job that the owner of this landscaping business gave me, there was this enormous flower bed in the middle of a circular driveway at what's really kind of a mansion in a suburb of Cincinnati. And I was a poor kid. And he said, I need you to weed that flower bed, big flower bed. He hadn't shown me how to pull weeds properly, didn't show me how to do it. He just said, I need you to weed that flower bed. And what happened to me really quick was I started pulling the weeds, and the tops of the weeds were breaking off, and I wasn't getting the root. And something inside of me said, that's not good enough. And so then I studied for the next 10 to 15 to 20 minutes about what it took with the soil, how you move the weed around to make sure when I pull it that I get the root. I understood that he hired me to do a job, that person that owned that mansion had hired his company to have us do a job. And if I didn't do a good job, he wasn't going to be living up to the commitment he made.
Right.
And every day from that moment since I've been 14, no matter what I've done, I've tried to make sure, whether it's pulling weeds, whether it's selling houses, whether it was selling hats in hat stores, that I did the absolute best job possible. And what happens is I wake up at 45 years old and this happens. And it's all been from that same basic principle. If you do anything, make sure you do it really well. And don't wait around for someone to have to come and show you, to have to come and motivate you, to have to come and train you. Do the work. Realize when you don't do it well and do it better the next time.
100%.
At 14, I knew this.
Right. But you were also taught that.
Somehow, but I was around it, but I didn't have great...
I understand.
Right?
You learned it. There was a visceral thing that happened, but had you not been in that environment to learn it, that lesson wouldn't have been there. So my mom being a teacher always stressed the importance of education. My dad being a builder, 80s and 90s, it wasn't the greatest time to be a builder. He taught the work ethic, and he didn't teach it by telling me. My dad didn't come to every baseball game. He didn't come to every basketball game. When he did, I crushed it because I wanted him to see that. But he taught me work ethic of, if you want to provide, if you want to survive, if you want anything in life, you have to go work for it. So my environment taught me you have to educate yourself and learn, but you got to go do the work. So a lot of people didn't make that the mental distinction that you did, which is, if you're going to go do it, you need to go do it well. They just want to go work, or they're not educating themselves, or they want to learn, it's funny, when you go to these conferences a lot, when you go to these events, there's the people that are speaking or that, have companies there. But as far as the attendees go, there's a group of people that are every single one of them that never grow. Because they're like, I'm going to learn that thing. I'm going to learn that shortcut. I'm going to learn that secret. And they're not doing enough work. But then you have a ton of people that are doing a whole lot of work that either aren't trying to do it well, or aren't trying to get better, or aren't trying to learn anything. And they've got to be both. I don't think that no one, like there's only a certain group of people that are capable of these things. But I do think there's a whole group of people that learned a lot of really bad stuff, or didn't learn things, that either can't or are going to have a really, really hard road.
But everyone can pull a fucking weed.
Sure.
And everyone can make that decision in that moment. Let me make sure I pull the root. Did you ever weed a flower bed?
Oh, yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know when you pull that root, you know that weed's probably not coming back, and that's the right way to do it. This isn't a novel idea.
Right.
Right? And so everyone could do it. So what's the issue with people not caring about doing a good job? I was probably making $4.25 an hour. I wasn't doing it because I had these big goals or these big ideas. There was obviously a principle inside of me that it's like, this is what somebody paid me to do. This is what success is going to be if I do it well. Do it. There wasn't anything big, any big idea. And think about a 30-year-old not being able to do that thing on any basic task for a job they're supposed to be doing.
So it's interesting. I don't know that we've ever had this conversation. What about success that's not monetary in the intangible side? What about that is important for you? Why be successful outside of any monetary benefit?
I know that it makes me a more capable person every time I do something else better and well.
But what's significant about that for you?
It makes life easier, man. It makes me more capable. So at any point, here's how I relate. There's something that you're trying to take me down some road, but here's what's important to me is that I know that life is fucking hard. It's hard. It's going to be hard today. It's going to be hard tomorrow. And it's going to be hard the next day. Now, I'm going to find the sweet spots of life in the moments of hard, but I know that if it's going to be hard, let me work on becoming a better person. So when the fucking hard shows up, man, that I'm more capable, that it's a little easier.
Right.
And what I find is year after year after year, if I've done the hard, I figured out how to do the hard. So bring on the next fucking hard thing.
Where did you learn that?
I learned it from that first day. I think these things compound, man. There's no one that taught me this. I learned it. Pulling that weed. Then all of a sudden I applied that to everything then. And then when you apply just doing a good job to every task on every job, you start to become a person. I don't think there's these people, who's the big guru? He's like, there's a straight line method. I don't think there's a fucking straight line method to anything in life. I think life kind of goes curves and you don't know what you're going to be dealt with. And the path, if you take the path that maybe is it's unpaved, I know it's going to be really hard, but at the end of it, I'm going to learn how to pave paths. So then what I know is I can go anywhere.
Agreed.
Right? And so I don't think that I look back. There's no big principle on this other than just for me trying to do it's like this. It's like us doing the podcast. I want this to be an awesome conversation. I want this to be something really beneficial that people can listen to and learn from. So I'm trying to think properly. I'm trying to make sure I say good things.
Sure.
I'm trying to make sure that I am relatable to people. And I believe it's that simple, man.
But again, I 1,000% agree with all that. I think the reason that you know that pursuing that we'll just call success makes things easier, makes life easier from personal experience, and because we've seen other people that have embraced the hard that turns into easy. So it goes back to communities, tribes, groups of people. Tony Robbins says our second biggest fear is not being enough, not being good enough, smart enough, having enough money, which ties into our biggest fear, which is not being loved. And loved is liked, included, being a part of something. Everyone wants to be a part of something. I think that from an entrepreneurship perspective, from a personal development growth perspective, from a success perspective, we've seen that group, we've seen that tribe, that community, and I want to be part of that tribe. So people that don't want it is they're perfectly happy with the tribe that they're in. Of I make $30,000 a year and play video games, and I'm part of my video game thrive, and that creates fulfillment in me. Now, we could make the argument they've not seen another tribe. They've not been exposed to other things. Okay, great. Now, if they're exposed to that, the question is, do they want to be part of that? Do they want that thing bad enough? Are they willing to go do the work to get it? I think it comes back to our basic wants and needs as humans of what we want to be a part of and fulfilling and overcoming those fears of not being enough, not being a part of something, not being liked, loved, whatever. For me, the way that I believe, God's no respecter of persons. So if someone else can do it, I can too. There was a set of success principles that they applied that were simple. So the way for me to be successful and be part of that and achieve what they've achieved is to take those things and apply it to my life. Those things aren't applied the same way. It goes back to why here's the 7 steps to success won't work, because if you apply it the exact same way they did to your life, it's not going to work the same way. You actually have to figure out how to apply those things. It's as simple as getting your mind right. Well, that's different. If you've been through some huge traumatic event, there may be professional parts that you need to do. You may have to figure out, how do you learn differently? How do you snap yourself out of it? When I wake up in the morning, I don't want to be getting up in the morning. And I now know, having done it over and over and over, when I step foot on the treadmill, I don't want to listen to podcasts. I'm not going to lift today. I'm only here because if I don't and post a picture about it, someone on social media will be like, Phil, not get up this morning, whatever. I now know, okay, I need to jam out to some music. That's going to light my fire and turn me on, and I'm going to want to work hard. And now all of a sudden, I start getting the blood flowing. Oxygenate my brain, get some feel-good chemicals. Now I want to listen to Andy. Andy Frisella, right? Or I'm going to go listen to this. And now, okay, now I want to lift. That momentum creates more motivation. That's the thing that people don't understand is the only things we can control are what we do and how we respond to things. That's the core element of a mindset. If you're not taking action, then you need to go get your head straight so that you take action. Or if you're in a bad headspace, go take action. You'll fix that. It's literally that simple.
It is that simple. And this is the frustrating part. Because here's the thing. I'm not frustrated that people struggle. We all struggle. I'm not frustrated that they're not perfect. I don't ever think I ever achieve perfection because I'm always trying to level the fuck up. Right when I get close to being really good, I press myself more. And it's like, man, I don't have those skills. And so I'm not. But what I want them to fucking do is say, I get it. I accept it.
And I choose not to.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
Yeah.
I've been saying for years, I just want to put them to a choice.
Yeah.
Let me get them to a choice. But most people won't do it because they don't want to accept the bullshit. They don't want to accept that, you know what? I make bad decisions. They don't want to accept that, oh, I haven't worked on my mind. I haven't read the right books. Like, all they need to do is find their person, find a Tony Robbins, but listen to Jim Rohn. If I say it one time, I've said it 10,000. I only need to hear one thing from him, and it is, you got to work more on yourself than you do on your job. That's how simple this shit is. And working on yourself is reading the right book and programming your mind.
Right.
Working on a mindset. Being around successful people. Making some choices to do things that are going to lead you down this path of success. I really believe, I do, this is a belief that I have, is that most people think it's really complicated.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I think they get overwhelmed. It's so simple.
So I also believe that when you take someone's illusions away, when you take away the things that they don't know, especially ones that they've built in for comfort purposes, those can't be undone. When someone sees the truth about something, they can't unknow it. We have built those in as humans, right? So when you tell someone, it's as simple as that. It's not even, you can make a conscious choice. Yes, I agree. I'm just not willing to do the work. For most people, subconsciously, they're not going to acknowledge it because as soon as they do, the illusion of it's way more complicated than that kicks in, and they now have an excuse. It's all about excuses.
Why? Yeah. Why are we always searching for an excuse? Why are we?
An excuse.
Because me and you probably are at times too.
100%.
Subconsciously.
That's why it's top of mind right now. Because I've the last week or so been unwrapping my excuses. And I heard one time that an excuse is just a lie wrapped with a reason.
Oh yeah, I'll give you a reason.
Yeah.
I'll give you a reason.
Yeah. And I had a mentor that said any excuse will do.
Yeah.
When I'd make an excuse, any excuse will do.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to convince me, like, you're making an excuse. It doesn't matter what excuse you come up with. Anyone will do. Mm-hmm. We make excuses all the time. John Maxwell says the opposite of success isn't failure. The opposite of success is excuses. You can become successful from failure. You can't become successful from excuses. But we don't want to talk about that.
Those asshole thought leaders.
Yeah, right. Just breaking it down so simple, even my grandma can understand it.
What have you learned with this journey that you've been on? So you started M1 Academy. Like, that's a total setup podcast marketing question. But like, really,
PhilTreadwell.com/coaching.
Sorry, I interrupted you. What is that again, sir?
PhilTreadwell.com/coaching.
It's awful arrogant to name the website after you, sir. What's the 1.5 year journey been for you?
Man, the 1.5 year journey is, any new pursuit and endeavor is going to be hard. And it's going to be harder than you think it's going to be. But it's always harder than the harder you thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because one of the things I learned just from a sheer coaching perspective, and interestingly enough, those are in the real estate industry that know Tom Ferry. He's in Dallas and we'd done a podcast swap. And we had this kind of fireside chat for about an hour. He was on my podcast. I was on his. And then we went to his office and had lunch. And I asked him, I said, you teach all of your coaches everything about how to be a great coach for the real estate industry. Are you ever concerned they're just going to take all that information and walk away with it? He said, it happens sometimes. And he said, I'll even have people that say I've kind of maxed out what I can do here. I want to go do my own thing. It's like I high five them on the way out the door. And he said, the reason is because what I have the luxury of understanding that they don't know is there's a business of coaching. coaching people, coaching professionals, being an effective coach. And there's an entirely different business of running a coaching business. There's being a good coach, and then there's the business of building coaches and having coaches. That has probably been the biggest curve that I underestimated, is I'm constantly having to build two different businesses. There's one of making sure that I'm continuing to grow and improve and create content and create strategies and resources for people to be successful and help shorten their growth curve, help identify blind spots, all in just being a good coach. And then there's the business of building a coaching company that's an entirely separate business. But I will say that in my professional career of about 24 years and 20 in mortgage and real estate, this is by far the hardest I've ever worked. But it goes back to, I'm extremely clear in what we're trying to accomplish and where I want to go personally and professionally.
What are you trying to accomplish?
What I want to do is, I say all the time, the mission of M1 Academy is to help people execute and perform at the level they're capable of. And what I am trying to accomplish professionally is a lot of what we're talking about, letting them know that success is a subjective term. My level of success, your level of success, what people define success as is different. It's not my job to define that for them, but whatever it is they want and whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish, that they can actually live up to that, right? Our standards that we set for ourselves are actually what we do. We think we have higher standards, but if we're not taking action, if we're not doing those things, that's not really our standard. That's what we aspire our standards to be. And so I've also had to make my personal and professional circle a lot smaller, because what I learned is a good friend is not someone who accepts you for who you are. A good friend isn't someone that's okay with just you being you. A real friend is someone that holds you to the standards that you've set for yourself. And so that whole concept of unpacking that for them and realizing, we've all heard the saying, the definition of hell is meeting the person that we might have become. I say, screw that. Figure out who that person is. Let's reverse engineer that, create some habits, create disciplines, and become that person.
Okay, so I want to go down this path. I've been on with my own leaders in the real estate company I operate about ability versus willingness. I don't think me and you have talked about this.
I don't think so.
Right?
It's a good topic.
Yeah. And so as I've been bringing them along this leadership path, as I not hand the reins to them to lead the company, but as we're going to grow and scale up, I have to have other leaders that are just as capable as me.
Absolutely.
Right? And so obviously I had certain abilities to influence folks, to get them to do things that maybe they otherwise wouldn't have. And that's a unique ability that people develop sometimes. And so if I'm going to remove myself from as much impact or as many moments as I always had with our agents, I have to have somebody else step in. And if they aren't as either capable or willing to fill that gap and to be influential, we're going to have a problem.
Right.
And so I say all that to say, once you see it, a way to do something, that's the ability in my brain. Now push back and argue if you want, but once you see it and you can understand and interpret it like, oh, I see what he's doing. I see how he's engaging with people. I see how he's moving them. I'm in the presence. I felt it. I see it. Now do it. So I think once you see it and can acknowledge it, can interpret, can say that's what it is, then I believe the only link is a willingness to start and begin. Correct. Maybe you're not going to be as good as me, but neither was I. It's then a willingness to do those uncomfortable things.
Yes.
To lead in this aggressive manner that I lead in. To lead in this way that just doesn't give a shit what people are going to think, right? To not be the people pleaser. To engage with them at the level that they need me to engage with them on. So, where does ability and knowledge stop and willingness begin?
Ability, capability cannot lead to willingness. But willingness can lead to capability and ability. And that willingness is in taking action. right? We're going to come back to the same elements because it's all the same. You can go and try and work and create the ability. But if you have all this knowledge and ability, that's not going to just create some willingness. So there's also two different pieces of this. There's one in a leadership perspective, and there's one as a tactician and executioner. There's a lot of people that have natural talent that don't build skill around it. So they have this ceiling. If you take a natural talent and wrap skill and ability around that natural talent, the sky's the limit. But just because someone is able to perform, is a great tactician, is capable and willing, that doesn't necessarily mean they're a great leader. Because the other part of this, I don't know if it's Einstein or John Maxwell, they're both pretty smart dudes, said you don't truly know something until you can teach it to someone else.
That might have been an Einstein thing. Maybe. I don't know. It sounds like Einstein.
Yeah. Good quote, whoever said it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are top performers or have taken a journey and then they want to go coach or they want to lead, but they don't really understand how they got there. And this ties into the question you asked about my journey with M1 Academy. There's a lot of stuff I understood viscerally. There's a lot of things that I either had natural talent or had built some skill around, but creating an environment for someone else to figure that out or a system that allows them to use that is much more difficult than it sounds. The concept is simple. I did this. I'm going to teach you to do this. We've heard it all the time. Find somebody that's out in life where you want to be and ask them how they did it. But going and doing a cookie cutter version of what they did won't get you there in the far majority of cases. So it's how do you break it down to what I call learnable, teachable, and duplicatable concepts. It's how you scale a company. It's how you lead people. It's how you grow. If it's learnable, teachable, and duplicatable, you can grow. You can scale. But most of us don't think in those terms. They think in terms of skills, tactics, abilities, talent, whatever. But they don't think it in terms of how do I package that in a way that I remove the illusion, open the veil, create a path for someone else to be able to go do it. It's a much harder thing than we'd ever think. Now, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. I don't care how good your systems are, how much the tactical things work, or how much success that you've had that you've shown someone, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. All the things, they still have to make the decision.
Yeah, the only way I've ever become good at anything? The only way.
You decided to.
By fucking doing it. And in the beginning, I wasn't good at every single thing.
I think that's a bigger issue than people really want to talk about is, in one of my talks when we talk about embracing failure, as I'm finishing my book, What the Uncommon Have in Common. And in part of that talk, one of the conversations is even people that aren't afraid of failure. They don't have a fear of failure. Like I don't like it, but I'm okay failing. Even people that will admit that, are you okay with people seeing you fail? Right? So let's unpack this for a second. Some of us are okay failing behind closed doors when no one knows about it. I tried this. Right? So what happens there, though, is if you can understand, it doesn't matter even if people see you fail. That's why a lot won't start. The reason they won't make the decision, I want to get better at something, is just what you said and what I say all the time. Anything we start, we suck at, but we want so badly, especially people that have achieved some level of success, either personally or professionally. When you start something new, you're at the ground floor, you're at the bottom, you're going to suck at it. And they don't want that because they've created this new persona of I'm at this level. And if people see that I'm doing this and not doing it well, I'm now no longer at that level.
Well, their brain's wrong.
I agree, but that's what people think.
This thing to me, I'm beyond even bitching about it anymore. I don't even care how it sounds and how it comes across. Like I really am over this idea of whining and crying and all that. I just want people to see it the way I see it because it's going to improve their life. And what I want them to see is all those things you said that I do know now from coaching a bunch of people and training them up and trying to instill these principles in. I know it's this simple. Just do it. Like, it is that simple and don't give a shit what anyone thinks. And here's the caveat to that. For the ones who truly don't care about you, there's something about receiving feedback from the ones that do care, because you can grow exponentially faster if you're willing to listen to them. But the majority of this world doesn't give a shit about us. And I'm not mad about it. Yeah. They don't have to. They don't love us. They don't know us. They aren't personally invested, so they don't care. So what the hell are we worried about what those people thought about us? I do remember feeling that way. As a kid, as an adult, I can't comprehend this.
It's generational, though, too, because there's a whole generation of people that absolutely care what people think, because that's what they were taught. It matters what people think.
Yeah, I did when I was 15 at the Punch Bowl at the dance, and I remember not being. I was shaking in my boots. I really think I was shaking.
It's probably the mustache.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, the pork chops. I showed that picture today when I was talking to the seniors, and I put that on, and I think most people. I wasn't scared to put it up. Our training director last night that was helping me put together this presentation said, "Hey, can you get me a picture when you're in high school?" I said, "I think that's going to be hard, but let me." She's like, "Oh, are you?" I said, "No, I'm not worried about it. I don't give a shit what it looks like."
Yeah.
That was what that kid looked like. I showed it to you and you went, "Oh God," you wanted to say it, but you're like, "That didn't look like you." Yeah, I know. But the point is this: if you take action, that person can look like this person now.
Sure.
Like, I fundamentally understand this.
Right. But you fundamentally understand it because you've seen it, you've experienced it, you've done it.
I didn't. Nobody did it for me. I didn't even have a good coach, man.
Agreed. A lot, but you have to understand, you also learned it early.
Yeah, we'll go there. We'll talk about this.
So two things. The first thing is, it's much harder for people to understand that when there's not the belief there. Our beliefs run deep. Imposter syndrome is real. Fear of failure is real to that person. I'm not saying it's a real concept, but to them, that's a very real thing. So
it's a lie.
It is a lie. But the only way that you overcome the belief is by taking action and creating a new belief. And the other thing that we kind of skimmed over here is starting early. When a new platform comes out, first of all, I immediately go get my handle at Phil Treadwell. I want all my social media handles to be the same. So when something new comes out, I do it.
Of course, the guy who named his podcast the mortgage marketing expert.
Well, that was a poor choice of name, but I would go back and do it a little bit differently. And for the record, it was because I was bringing on mortgage marketing experts. I wasn't calling myself.
You come up with all the reasons and excuses. Yeah. We're going to come back around to this, right?
Here we go. So two things. When people...
Something new. You reserve the Phil Treadwell name instantly.
Right.
The new thing.
And I go try to play with it and break it and fail at it and suck at it. I'm an early adopter in most things because then as I'm learning and starting at the bottom, so is everybody else. We want to wait until the masses, because we care what people think, when the masses adopt something and there's already people that are proficient at it, and then we want to go try something.
But you still could.
Agreed.
There's 1.5 million realtors in this country. How many loan officers are there?
Probably 300,000.
Okay. You could take a new loan officer. I could take a new realtor. And if I was coaching them one-on-one and mentoring them and giving me a lot of time and they listened to everything I said, within 3 to 4 months in this Midwestern market, I'd have them making $10,000 to $15,000 a month.
Only if they're willing to do the work and only if they believe that you can help them.
Right. But what I'm saying is you can still come in late.
Of course.
Something. So I don't want to get away from what you're talking about. No, you can come in late.
Agreed. You can come in late and should. But my point is, because a lot of these are workarounds. Yeah. So the point is, if there's something new, or even if there's not something new, if you go do it and try it and break it, being an early adopter is a positive thing. So start early, start often. The concept ready, fire, then aim is almost everything I've done. The podcast was ready, fire, aim. I invited 5 people to be my first guests on a podcast, and I didn't know how to do a podcast. On Sunday, I invited people. I name dropped the other guests of these are other people I want to be on. 3 people said yes. On Monday, I scheduled for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So Tuesday, I had to figure out how to go do a podcast. Sometimes we just have to take action and figure it out later. We can't get better at things that we're not doing. So the longer we wait, I don't want to skip over that.
No.
We can't get better at things that we're not doing. So if you'll go do something, you'll get better. But the concept of what you're talking about is why people won't just go and do. And I'm saying they either don't have belief that that's going to happen for them, which is why they want this for sure sheet, because then it takes any responsibility off of them. If something works or doesn't work, at the end of the day, it's our responsibility. If you took action, it didn't work, that's on you. That Gary Vee episode that we did, he said a line, is the first time he said it, and he loved it. He told so-and-so, clip that. And he was talking about social media and how there's this whole generation of people like, social media doesn't work. He's like, no, your content sucks. It's like, the line was, it's like blaming the basketball for not being LeBron. And it's so true. We want to say this doesn't work, that doesn't work, whatever. No, you suck at it. And that's okay.
So do the work to not suck. That's the point about pulling the weeds. Keep doing it.
Yes.
You're going to actually become really proficient, and there's a chance that's pretty likely that you become really good.
Right. And that's where we can always point out a situation to overcome objections, overcome their excuse. Yeah, well, that person had Mark as a mentor. Right? That person make $10,000, $15,000 a month. They had Mark.
They don't have to. And I think this excuse of, like, I know that me coaching people and you coaching them, I'm coaching them and having them take action, and they're becoming better. Some people are becoming better because I've come into their life, and the same thing for you, than if I otherwise wouldn't have.
Right.
I get that. I know it. But here's what I want them to know. They don't need me. They don't need me. They think they need me.
It's just a personal responsibility. It's up to us. And most people don't want that responsibility. They want it to be up to someone else.
So I don't have an aneurysm.
You've already popped a couple blood vessels, I'm pretty sure.
Man, the reason why this passion comes is because I know how close people are to getting to live the life that they have envisioned.
Yep.
I just know it, man, because I've lived it. And it's hard for me to disconnect this passion and this want and this desire for these people that I see them sitting in my classes, or I see them online or asking these questions. I'm like, you guys, you're so close to it. You're so close to it. I want them to taste it and have it. And they just think they don't have the right solution or the right answer or whatever it is. So it's just disappointing me. And I just want to shake and be like, guys, come on. It's right in front of you. It's so simple.
And it's doing anything. I'm literally doing anything. I can trace every success I've had personally and professionally, and even failures, to individual conversations.
There you go.
Like, I can literally trace it back of, I had this conversation that took me to this event, and I met this person and had this conversation, and all these things happen. That's the point of, we can't get better at what we're not doing. We all try to plan it out, right? The paralysis analysis, all the things. It's literally about going and taking action and doing work. And if someone wants to be successful, we'll just break it down for everybody. We're talking in circles. Get your mind right, whatever that means for you. Educate yourself, have a positive mental attitude, growth mindset, whatever you want to call it. Do a ton of things, anything, and don't stop.
See, there it is.
That's literally it.
That's it. What have you done that you've made a plan that the plan went to plan?
Oh, geez.
Anything?
No, probably not.
I haven't.
No.
It's never gone to plan. All right. So, what about relationships?
Most important thing.
Why is that? So we can make that statement. I understand that I can reflect. Why?
In any metric in business, whatever your, if you want to close deals, you want to build businesses, you need leads or you need ideas or to spur that. Those will come from conversations with other people. Now, a conversation can be listening to an Audible book or listening to a podcast. Those are still conversations. Relationships with people are important because you've got to have someone to inspire you, to hold you accountable, to piss you off. And when we say relationships, people think it's got to be this moral high ground of, I got this really incredible relationship with people. No, relationships can be positive, can be negative, but business is about people. Life is about people. So if you're not having any interaction with people, if you're not having conversations like this, spur of the moment, if you're not trying to pick someone's brain or get in earshot of them or learn from them, you're capped at what you can do, what your capabilities are, right? Willingness, I don't think, can be taught. I think you have a drive for something, to do something or not. Everything else can be taught, right? So for me, I said it earlier, every professional success I've ever had, I can trace directly to a coach or mentor taking their experience, their advice, and giving it to me as wisdom. I can take every personal thing that's happened and trace back, man, if I'd have listened to that conversation, that wouldn't have happened, or I took this piece of advice, or during that conversation, I had this thought. I think we're built to interact with humans, and that's relationships.
Who's a person that you want to meet still?
Probably Richard Branson. That guy, I've read a couple of his books. He's obviously been wildly successful at almost everything he's ever done. And I've consumed a lot of his content. He doesn't have a ton out there. He doesn't do a lot of speaking engagements. There was a company offered him $2 million to come do like a 90-minute keynote, and he turned him down. I know a lot of people have turned down $2 million. I don't care what level of success you're at for that. But what I know is that he thinks differently. And again, I'm sure he learned it. It was part of the relationships he had, things he's experienced personally. I want to get around him to see that firsthand. Like that was the question I got with Gary Vee is he like, is he like what you think he's like? He's exactly like that. He 100% owns it, transparency. But I also don't think I was prepared for how gracious he was. Like he really, really loves people in a big way. And so I'd want to be around Richard Branson because I want to experience in person what I think I know, because there's just some connections that happen there. The dude's brilliant. He was a brilliant marketer. He's a brilliant tactician. He's a brilliant business leader and leading leaders, all those things. And there's some things that you can only pick up by being around them.
So what are you waiting for? Like, that's a real question. That's not, what are you waiting for?
I'm not waiting for, I've actually been working relationships I have to see, can I end up in the same place?
Well, you could.
Oh, 100%.
You can go to his island and spend enough to stay there on a weekend he's there and have breakfast in his vicinity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're building the business to have enough sum of money to be able to go do that.
That is how simple I think this is.
Yeah.
Like it is. And when someone says, I had a guy on the podcast recently who, Nick Hutchinson, I think I said his name correctly. And he evaluates and reviews books. And his podcast is called Book Thinkers. And he has had people on his podcast and interviewed all the big hitters. The names, the Grant Cardones, all these people. When they write a book, they go to him to help him.
I know who you're talking about.
Right?
Yeah.
And so
has really short hair.
Yep. Great energy. Guys in his late 20s. And so we were talking about our favorite books, and we had the same favorite book. The book that's impacted us most, Compound Effect, Darren Hardy. And I said, man, have you talked to him? He's like, no, I haven't interviewed him. What are you talking about, man? You have a list of the people you've interviewed. He's like, I don't. I said, what are you waiting for? This doesn't make sense to me. It's like, this is what you do. This is the category. This is the person that you want. What are you waiting for? This is one life. We only have X amount of time. What are you waiting for? Make this shit happen. And so I think we have to take our own advice at times.
100%. So it's interesting. Darren Hardy specifically will probably be hard to get. I'd actually had a mutual friend that both Darren Hardy and I had to get him on the podcast. We had enough big name lists. I was like, this will be great. When I'd seen him speak at a mortgage specific event, I knew the guy that was able to make that happen and had conversations with his teams several different times. And the guy applies the compound effect in his life to such a high degree. They're like, we're really focused on our KPIs for this quarter. It's just a flat no. But, continue to keep multiple quarters in a row. Probably should have still continued to follow up, but at some point it fell off the roadmap. But that's the irony of that thing, is one of the reasons that's one of the most impactful books for people is he applies that to his life in a huge way. Now, the reason I have no qualms about reaching out and asking for stuff was because of the 4-Hour Work Week. And he has a story in there, and I can't remember the exact story, but it was around, it was something as simple like, a neighbor or this really successful person has a Ferrari, and you want to take the Ferrari to the prom. But so you're just going to go rent a Ferrari. He's like, no, go ask the guy if you can borrow the Ferrari. And he literally in the book, the what I took away from it, it's been a long time, was that you never know what someone's willing to do until you ask. And almost every person that I know in the mortgage and real estate space that's had Gary on their podcast has paid money, either paid him, bought a bunch of empathy wine, bought an NFT, bought something. And I just asked. I literally tried to figure out what's a problem I can solve. What's a piece of value I can add? He did his Agent 2021 where he asked, invited mortgage people. And I'm like, I got a mortgage podcast. I might be able to put butts in the seats. And I've used that same move with several people and literally asked. Now, he said yes. Like I emailed Gary at VaynerMedia, what he puts out there in all of his content. A couple days later, he said yes, copied in his team. It was supposed to happen about a month later. Ended up getting canceled the last second on Zoom. And for about 7 or 8 months, every single week, I continued to follow up. And when they finally said yes again, I got to go to VaynerMedia to do it. But I didn't have to pay him anything. We were trying to add value. And my point in that is, you said, what are you waiting for? Just go do it. Someone asked me, because for me, Gary was the ungettable guest. So once I had Gary, people kept asking, okay, what's the ungettable guest? I'm like, Richard Branson. And someone said the same thing to me. Why not get Richard Branson on? So I started making relationships with people and realizing a really good friend of mine who runs in those circles, is from England, the whole deal, actually knows Richard Branson. They've been around each other. So I've been working that whole thing because I don't just want to be next at breakfast and kind of hear him talk to people. Hey, that would be phenomenal. And if I need to make that happen, great. But can I actually get a 30-minute conversation with him for free because I was able to work some stuff over here? It's strategy, right? Because I've never paid anyone to be on the podcast. And we've had a lot of huge names. So part of it for me is the challenge of how do we unpack it? How do we solve the problem? That, whether I am wired that way or whether I learned that, the work is what most people avoid. The work's come easy, both to you and I. Mm-hmm. I've never not been willing to do the work. Mm-hmm. I love the work. Mm-hmm. The part for me that gets me on fire is having to figure something out, having to build a new strategy.
Well, I'll let you figure it out and just tell me what to do, and then I'll just go execute. Hey, there was one idea in there about providing value for others.
Yes.
We missed that a lot, right?
Yep.
We missed that part.
We overthink what value is. We even hear partners, clients, we need to add value. And I heard an expression I use all the time now. We now try to boil the ocean coming up with some huge value. And sometimes value can be as simple as entertaining someone, an anecdote. Really highly successful people, especially people that speak and that do coaching or that have big companies, anytime they meet someone, everyone wants something from them. Hey, can I ask you a question? Hey, will you come on my podcast? Hey, will you come do this? Or, they want something. And I tell people, it's interesting because a lot of times in those circles, if you just don't ask for anything, like if you just have a conversation like a normal person and just talk to them, that's of value to them because everybody wants something. And so I learned very quickly that, and I think we even talked about this on when we did the podcast the first time, sometimes just being around people and having a normal conversation is something of value because most people want.
Yeah, that's the important part about building yourself into a valuable human. Because when you show up, people are going to value you. Right? There's this responsibility that I feel for me that if I want to play in certain spaces, if I want to be around certain folks, I better build myself to be the human being that when I talk, they listen. And when I'm around them with my thought-provoking brain and my problem-solving brain, that I'm willing to listen. I'm all bought in. I'm the human. But when I open my mouth, there's something that they're like, oh, that's really smart.
Yep.
You have to build your brain to be the person who can participate. Because in those moments, I've had opportunities that happen that they're impromptu. I didn't know it was going to roll out. I didn't know that person was going to say he's a really cool guy. I just know I wanted to be around him.
Yep.
And so it's important for me. I think it's a responsibility for me to become the necessary person that can play in that fucking game.
Yeah.
Right? And because if you ask and you're not that person, you're not going to get the answer you want.
No.
You may get lucky every once in a while, but you're not going to build the life and consistently play in the space that you see yourself in.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
And I think we all know, everyone has a talent. right? And again, we try to make that more complex. Well, I'm not very hand-eye coordinated. I'm not very smart. We all have an innate talent of some type. And sometimes it's someone's very thoughtful. Okay, turn that into your superpower. How do you give incredible gifts or recognition or communicate with people that, holy cow, that was super thoughtful? Like there's one guy that he's in the insurance space. I actually met him because he had done a podcast with Gary Vee. And
I know you're talking about hitting big.
What's that?
He's hitting big.
He's doing well, doing very well. Has a really cool podcast.
Yep. He gives gifts better than anybody else.
Well, he actually told a story about a guy who gives gifts. What he used to do is, back in the day on Facebook, when someone would put their destination, like they're going on vacation or whatever, what this guy would do is with potential clients that he was trying to wow, when he would see on Facebook, oh, we're on a plane going whatever, the dude would call ahead to the resort and have like a bottle of champagne or a fruit basket, like waiting for them and just say, hey, I hope you and your wife have a freaking awesome time. There's little things like that all of us have. Like you speak your mind directly, right? You don't bullshit. You don't let people make excuses. That's your superpower. Mine, my ethos is as a strategist. You give me a problem, I can figure out how to solve it, right? And so if people will just find, hey, what's this core thing that I'm inherently good at? Like I have an eye for expensive things. Okay, cool. Now, because you have that, lean into that. So when people ask your opinion, like you said, you're a person of value. Value doesn't have to be giving them something that's expensive or that has the monetary value. In the elite of the elite,
they can buy all that shit, man.
Yeah. In those circles, something of value is, man, you were able to have a conversation with me about basketball, right? You came up and complimented my tie, and my son gave me this tie. You don't know what it's going to be, so you just have to go and do it. I screwed up at this really, really badly with John Maxwell. The person I want to meet again, and like we're going to be friends. He doesn't know it yet, but John Maxwell and I are going to be buddies. Is when I first saw him, it was at a Dave Ramsey Entree Leadership. And if you had a platinum ticket, you got to go to this like meet and greet, cocktail, happy hour thing. And it was this huge room, had these tall cocktail tables, no chairs, and said, hey, people don't take pictures, don't take selfies because we don't want picture lines to start. And Dave Ramsey walks in, John Maxwell walks in, Simon Sinek walks in, John Rich from Big and Rich comes in. Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank comes in. Patrick Lencioni. I mean,
is this name dropping podcast?
Yes, this is name dropping. Okay,
this is some bullshit.
This was some cool stuff, right? And so you're just kind of mingling with these people. I see John Maxwell. My very first personal development book I ever read was 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader. It's a little book. It's green and black. He has a green sweater on. So he walks by and he kind of looks, because their job's to walk around and mingle and talk to people. And he looks and he starts walking over. He's like, oh, hey, you got a green sweater, just like 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader. And he looks at me kind of weird and he looks down. He goes, yeah, I've got one for every book, and just kind of walks away. And I was so excited that I got to talk to John Maxwell, and my wife looks at me like, who are you? Like, what was that? And I completely blew it, but it's the one
starstruck.
It was one of the only times I've ever really been starstruck in front of someone like that, because I was hooked on personal development when I first got that book. I think I was 19 years old. I got 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader, and the first chapter of the book is on character. And the second or third page, there's a thing in there that says your talent can take you where your character can't keep you. And it changed my life. And there was a lot of things that came easy to me. Like someone else's 8 or 9 was kind of my 4 or 5. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll just outwork everybody. I got a little more talent. At 19 years old, I got this adulting thing down, right? As we all do in our ripe old age.
But this is the failure piece we're talking about.
Yeah,
right.
And I tell this story from the rooftops to let people understand.
Yeah, yep.
My first podcast recording with Barry, I asked him an incredible question. I asked him a question. He gave an incredible answer. And I went, fantastic. And I asked him the next question, gave this incredible answer. And I responded, fantastic. I don't even use that as a segue. And I tell people it's episode 2 is the first one I ever recorded. You go listen. I'm this idiot that asks a question and says fantastic. And I leave it on there because we suck at it in the beginning in every situation.
In 2024 is going to be history. But right now, it feels like this moment, things are happening and changing fast. AI is here. It's always been here. It's machine learning has been here for a long time. We just don't know.
Yeah.
Like I think
they made it practical. They made it in the hands of everyone.
Yeah. See, everyone thinks I've mentioned this a couple times at sales meetings that I've led. Everybody thinks that it's a coincidence that a credit card application shows up in their mail. No, it's not. There's machine learning working on you. They've bought your habits. They have you figured out as a human.
Yep.
Combined with your ability, credit scores, what you've bought in the past, your affordability index, all these things. And they're targeting you for this specific credit card, for this specific offer.
Yes.
This has been happening for decades.
Yeah.
But now it's in our face, the average human, that this thing's here, and this world, I believe, is about to even pick up pace even more.
Yes.
So how do we not let that drive us crazy? How do we let that not stop us from taking action? How do we not let that paralyze us?
Well, I mean, so I got a couple things here. First one, the way to not is if you're constantly taking action and you're constantly trying new things, you're never going to get left behind because every time something new comes.
Fantastic.
There you go. Right? So you're talking about the machine learning.
Yeah.
There's a story, it's in a book. I don't know if it was The Power of Habit or Contagious or one of those. And they tell a story about Target when they came out with Red Card. The reason that they give you 5% off of the Red Card is to study your buying habits. And I won't go into the whole story, but what happened was, based upon, certain types of lotions or cosmetics or food choices, they can predict potential life events that are going to happen. And so the advertisements that you get in the mail are actually personalized. They're different.
AI,
machine learning. So what happened is this dad got the mail and his 17, 18-year-old daughter got a Target thing. And on the front of it was a coupon for baby diapers or formula or something like that. And he got really perturbed and went to the manager, was like, why are you sending my teenage daughter, Come to find out, about a month later, finds out that said teenage daughter was pregnant. And they were able to predict that.
She had probably bought a pregnancy test, probably 2 or 3.
Who knows?
Something happened.
Something happened,
Yep.
right? And so the part of that is that's been around for years. Right. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to AI specifically, as soon as ChatGPT came out, I immediately started trying to break it, trying to learn it. How do we do it? And now we have workshops and stuff on it. It's not because I'm inherently good at it. It's that if I screwed it up or failed, who cares? I tried that thing. I suck at a lot of social media platforms. I suck at a lot of technology platforms, but I go find the ones that work for me. But the way we don't get left behind is by going and doing stuff. But I will say, there's a guy named Pat Williams. He's written a couple books, but he was the GM for the Orlando Magic most recently. And he'd been a GM for these farm club teams. There's one in Philadelphia. It was like a AA, AAA team for the Philadelphia Phillies. And he said, you can only control the things that you can control. And he said, I could control how hot the hot dogs were, how cold the drinks were, what the experience was like when you came. We can't control whether the game wins and loses. And really great information. In this talk, he reads 300 books a year. A stupid amount of books. He was I have a book in my hand, so I'm going to stoplight, I read a few pages. And he said that if you read 5 books on any one subject, you're considered an authority on that subject. And when he was talking about the history of all this, he said it took from 1900 to 1950, all known knowledge doubled. And it was 1950 to 1980, and then it was 80 to 90, and then 90 to 95. And now it's this has been several years ago. At the time, it was every couple of days, all known knowledge doubled. And now we're probably in the minutes or hours with how fast things are going. Instead of that scaring people, it should empower people. You can only control the things that you can control, which ironically, M1 Academy, my coaching company, is mindset. It has to come first. You can control your attitude and you can control your actions. We can control how we respond to things and what we do. That's it. Everything else is taking action and adopting it and having a good attitude about the fact that, okay, AI is coming. Oh, it's going to replace us. Okay, They said that about the fax machine. They said that about websites. They said that about all kinds of things. This is going to replace real estate professionals, mortgage professionals, all these different things. And ironically, all it did was allow us to do our job better, to do our job more efficiently, to make it more relevant. I like that new things are happening. Why? Because there's a whole group of people that we're talking about that no matter how much you shake them aren't going to do it. And all that means is that there's that many fewer people doing it. I'm not as big on wanting to shake every single person. There's going to be people that are going to have to work at the gas station. There's going to be people that are going to have to fly my private jet when I have a private jet. There's going to be people that are have to do those things. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying not everyone will, which is the exciting part, because those that choose can. That for me is the reason to make the choice, is because most people won't make the choice. Well, cool, then I get to have those things.
All right, so that aligns with this statement that I always make all the time, and it's one of the strongest beliefs I have about how I operate in the world is almost anyone can do almost anything. What do you think about that? Almost anyone can do almost anything.
I agree with it.
Why? Because you're not an agreeable guy just to agree with someone.
Yeah, I think it goes back to God's no respecter of persons. And what I mean by that, for those people that don't understand, is he doesn't favor or say this person can and this person can't. And whether people believe the same way I do or not, we all kind of understand that there's no one human that's inherently better than another human, right? There may be skills that you're better at, things you're better at, but no one person is better than another person. Okay? So in that, us being created equal, which our company was founded on, we all have the same opportunity. Doesn't mean that one's not going to be harder than another. That someone may not have a harder time or have to do more work or learn more. But almost anyone can do almost anything is true, because we all have the same opportunity. For every person that says, well, I can't do this because of this, right? List the excuses. You can find someone that had it worse that did it, right? So I agree with it, because the only thing we can control is what we do and how we respond to things, our attitude. So that makes it so much easier to live life and build business. I got two things to think about. What goes in here through my eyes, through my ears, and then what I actually take action and do.
Right on, man. The things you think about and then the choices you make, right?
It's going to be hard. And it is hard, and it's supposed to be hard. And if that's someone's reason for not taking action, they just need to get over it, because nothing that's worth anything in life is ever easy. And, we just heard a really cool podcast with, Ed Milet and Andy Frisella. And it's interesting because in today's day and age, we like to glorify things, say these things are for everyone, that everyone can do it. We have this very inclusive thing. And I know it goes against a little bit of what I said of, like, as humans, any of us can do anything we want. But there's also context to it. I'm not going to be able to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, no matter how much I might want to. Right?
But here's the thing. I think we know that. See, I don't think we have to talk about it. We feel like we
Agreed.
have to provide the context, but we don't, because
All right.
I don't even dream. Here's what I'm not. Every once in a while, to use the metaphor of an NBA player, every once in a while, a really short player shows up and does well. A Muggsy Bogues who was 5'4", right, or Isaiah Thomas who's probably 5'11" or something like that. That's not normal.
Right.
Your talent has to be almost superhuman.
Sure.
If you have those deficiencies against the trees.
Correct.
Right? And so there's some nuance there. I don't even begin to think that this 45-year-old person could even begin to compete with those guys. There's just limitations that it's not going to happen.
Right.
But I also know what to place that on and what not to.
Agreed. But
right? That's the piece.
It is.
It doesn't get applied to everything. Everyone tries to apply it to anything hard. That's the problem.
But that in there lies the point.
Yeah.
Let's say you find your superhuman thing, you find your talent, it's still going to be hard.
That's the point, yeah. And everybody wants to think, well, this wasn't for me. It's
Right.
too hard, and it's a
Yes,
it's a bullshit
that.
out. It's a bullshit
That.
excuse.
Right.
Yeah.
So the line that I use all the time is success is about consistent and persistent efforts over time. We all know what it means to be consistent, but the persistence is what gives, because being persistent means staying consistent whether you get results or not. A lot of us get comfortable, get complacent, and we stop doing the thing that got us there, or we hit a glass ceiling and we don't understand, well, the strategy that got us here is not the strategy that's going to get to the next level. As I look at starting a new podcast, the strategy that made my last podcast successful in the mortgage business is not what's going to make this next podcast successful. You have to continue to do it over and over. So my point in that is, no one would question that, yes, it's hard for someone who's 5 foot anything to be a legend in the NBA or even make it to the NBA. But what I'm saying is, even stuff that makes sense of, hey, Mark's got a ton of freaking experience, a ton of knowledge. He's got the personality. He's got all the attributes to be a successful entrepreneur. That doesn't automatically make it easy. It's still going to be really effing hard, and it's going to be hard in different ways. And I think that that's what's on my mind right now is this: as soon as we embrace the fact that we're going to fail, and that's awesome because now I learn a little bit of extra stuff that I need to get to the next level. And it's hard, and it's supposed to be hard. I think as soon as we get that, then all of a sudden it makes it not as hard and it makes it not as frustrating.
So I guess it's supposed to be hard because we just haven't developed the skills and haven't done it. That's the supposed to. It's just supposed to be hard because you just don't know how.
But even when you have levels of success, even that podcast, Andy Frizzell's like, that was really hard. I think they said he made $56,000 the first 10 years in his business.
Not each year.
Yeah, no,
The first
total.
10 years, yeah.
And then now that he has like a huge company, he's like, it's actually harder now because I'm having to do more things, learn new things. It wasn't things that maybe came naturally to him. And I think that's the part that is, people think it's, at some point it's just going to get easy. And there's times it's easier or not as hard, but that's what I've just I say resigned to, that sounds horrible. I've just accepted it and embraced it.
Yeah.
No matter what level of success I do or don't achieve, it's never not going to be hard.
Why are we so why do we have such a problem with change? And I say we, humans, I'm one of them. Why do we have such a problem with this idea of change?
Uncertainty.
Yeah. But why is that a problem? Does it go back all the way to the beginning of this same self-doubt and not taking action and not having confidence and tough to learn something when we're older human beings? Like what is that? Because here's why. So process this, but we're sitting in a new space we're trying out for a podcast, and it's going to evolve maybe to a real estate podcast because we have the entrepreneur one. I'm not stopping doing that.
Yeah.
Right. We're keeping going.
Yeah.
And I had some people in here, great guys that do a lot of construction around the building. One of them was my brother. I don't know if he kind of looked like me or not, but one of them was. He's 7 or 8 years older.
No one could resemble your handsome appearance now that you got rid of the stash from high school.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Nothing like a backhanded compliment. And so, but they made a joke, and I don't know if you caught it, about, oh, he's going to want it changed. Did you catch that?
I didn't catch that.
And so there's this above how we were able to dissipate. Is that right?
Lighting, yeah.
Lighting. And so,
since you make a softbox from your main lighting.
Yep. And so I told them I wanted it done one way an hour ago. And then I said, nope, we've realized we need it a different way. They actually made the joke before I told them I was going to need it the different way. They're like, well, we'll probably back up here. You want it different. There's something inside of me that I may want changed too quick. But I have programmed my brain. If I see and it's needed to be done, you do.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's a slight evolution, a slight deviation. If it needs to be changed, decisions made. Change and go do. And I'm not even worried about if that outcome's going to be successful or a failure. Yeah. I know that that's a step in the process to have it become great.
Yes.
I'm not worried about it being perfection in any moment or any decision. Just keep going. And if it doesn't look right, if it doesn't sound right, if it doesn't go well, change it. Change it for what you feel is now going to be the better outcome. And then if that better outcome's not good, at some point, those slight 5 to 7 to 10% incremental changes is going to lead you to the destination. People are too focused on the outcome and not focused on this process, these incremental processes of just doing the work.
Right.
Why do we have such a problem with change?
I think it goes back to we don't want to do the work. When something changes, in most instances, that's going to require us to do something in addition to what we're already doing. or it goes back to the trigger word for you, which is comfort, right? Most people just want to be comfortable. And I say most, being over half of people just want to be okay, want it to be easy, want it to be comfortable.
There's times that I want that.
I mean, we all want it, but want it to a point that it keeps them from doing anything different.
Yeah. Here's how I'm trying to pressure myself to exponentially grow. What does the 50-year-old Mark want the 45-year-old Mark to do?
Yep, that's it.
So for Phil, what do you think the 50-year-old Phil wants you to do now?
Stop wasting time on the stuff that doesn't matter. For what I want 50-year-old Phil to be as 41-year-old Phil sitting here. Even though we talk about not caring what people think, about being quick to make change, executing at a high level, or executing and taking action at all, every single day, there's things that I should be doing and I'm not, and things I am doing that I shouldn't be. And 50-year-old Phil wants 41-year-old Phil to really make that decision to fix that. Right? Again, I quote Tony Robbins a lot. You've not truly made a decision unless it creates new action. I have a challenge at times with delegating. Sometimes I just want to do it, or I feel like I'm the only one that's going to do it. Right? Sometimes done is better than good. And sometimes what's the expression that great's the enemy of perfect, or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's still things that I think matter, or in the past have thought mattered to where it is I want to go and what it is I want to do, that don't matter at all. And when I look back at 12, 15, 18, 21, 25-year-old Phil, I don't even thank him as much for the right decisions he made as the wrong ones. Because I really think that most of my growth and the things I learned were from the times I messed up bad. I don't really regret anything I've done. There's situations where if the same situation was now, I would do things differently for sure. But I don't regret any of that, because then I would regret what I know, where I am, what I'm doing, and I don't. And I think that that's what people need to realize too, is if I can look back fondly on all the screw ups and mistakes and failures I've had, I now no longer am scared to screw up, because chances are 5 years from now, I'm just gonna be like, dude, so glad you did that. So glad you effed that up.
What are you excited about?
Man, I'm excited about 2024. I think I make the joke whenever I was speaking today at some of these events. I have a slide that says, what's 2024 going to look like? And I make the joke. I was like, does anybody feel like 2024 is that X that we had that we keep giving chance after chance? Like, make it like they're going to change this time. Does anybody feel like that year? But I actually truly believe that 2024 is going to be a big year, not just in terms of the mortgage and real estate industry or business. I just think that post-COVID, we've had a little bit of a roller coaster, and I feel like people are ready for something different. I think people are ready to stop focusing on if it bleeds, it leads media. I think people want to do something. I think that all of the boiling tensions, whether it's religious or political, whatever, I think there's going to be some breakthroughs, but I'm just excited about the opportunity that 2024 holds. And I just know that the work that I've put in, that my team's put in, and there's going to be that hockey stick curve that we all want. It's coming, baby. It's coming.
So what happens if it doesn't arrive in 24? What happens if it doesn't?
Then we'll plan on it happening in 2025.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like, we're all in. I heard one time that you have to make the pain of quitting worse than the pain of pushing through. You've got to go all in, put all of you into it, all of your money, all your resources, all your time, all to where the pain of quitting something is worse than the pain of pushing through. And we're way past that metric. We're way past that metric.
I'm always excited when we get to sit down and talk, man. I am.
I appreciate the opportunity, man. It's fun.
Man. It's good, and I just want to keep on learning and growing. And I'm excited about 24, and I'm just excited. I'm excited, me personally, to answer my own question about a day when I wake up and I feel like I've arrived.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. I do want that.
Yeah.
I want that moment to happen, because I do think there's nothing wrong with the deep breath then.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with some reflection and say the hard work's paid off. It's been worthwhile. And now that's a very high goal for me. That's a high threshold.
Sure.
Maybe a lot of other people would have already done that.
Yeah.
But for me, so I'm excited when that day arrives for me. It will.
Yeah, I'm excited for that too. My wife gets really frustrated because I don't actually achieve a lot of goals, because as soon as I see the path to that goal or we almost get there, I punt it out further. And she's like, why don't you ever just take a minute and be excited about it? And that's kind of my answer is we'll know when that day comes, when it's time to just accept success of this goal and we've achieved it and we can take a breath. But until then, we're going to keep punting a little further out.
I hear all those things and I'm like, man, people must think we're crazy.
Probably so.
Right? Crazy and misunderstood, probably. All right, let's get the hell out of here. I'm hungry.
Let's do it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.